Rich Dad Poor Dad has sold over 40 million copies. It's the best-selling personal finance book of all time. Tony Robbins, Will Smith, Damon John, they all credit it as life-changing. And yet, when I actually finished reading it, I had a problem. About half of what Robert Kiyosaki teaches will genuinely change how you see money. The other half ranges from misleading to flat-out wrong. So today I'm going to give you the honest breakdown, the lessons that work, the parts that don't, and whether you should actually read this book in 2026. Welcome to Earnings Per Page, where I distill the world's best finance and business books into under 10 minutes. If you want to skip the fluff and keep the insights, hit subscribe. Let's get into it. First, the premise. Kiyosaki tells the story of two father figures from his childhood. His real father, a highly educated PhD with a stable government job, who struggled financially his entire life and died with almost nothing, and his best friend's father, his rich dad, who never finished 8th grade but became one of the wealthiest men in Hawaii. The book is structured around the lessons rich dad taught him and the mistakes poor dad made. Now, fair warning, there's strong evidence that rich dad never actually existed as described. Multiple journalists have investigated, and Kiyosaki has given conflicting answers about whether the man was real. But for the purposes of this video, let's evaluate the ideas, not the storytelling. Lesson 1. The rich don't work for money. This is the most important idea in the book, and it's genuinely powerful. Most people trade their time for money. They get a paycheck, spend it, and start over next month. Kiyosaki's argument is that the rich think differently. They focus on building or buying assets, things that put money in their pocket whether they work or not. Real estate, stocks, businesses, royalties, patents. The wealthy don't sell their hours. They own things that generate income while they sleep. This single shift in perspective, from earner to owner, is worth the price of the book by itself. Lesson 2. The difference between assets and liabilities. Here's where Kiyosaki gets controversial. He defines an asset as something that puts money in your pocket. A liability is anything that takes money out. Sounds obvious, but his most famous claim is that your house is not an asset. Most people would call their home their biggest asset. Kiyosaki says no. If you live in it, it costs you money every month in mortgage, taxes, maintenance, utilities. It's not generating income, it's draining it. Therefore, it's a liability. Now, accountants will tell you this is technically incorrect. By standard accounting definitions, a house is an asset. But Kiyosaki's point is psychological, not technical. He's trying to get you to stop confusing things you own with things that make you money. And on that level, the lesson lands. Lesson 3. Mind your own business. Kiyosaki says most people spend their entire careers building someone else's business and their employers. Meanwhile, they neglect their own financial column. His advice, keep your day job but start building assets on the side. A rental property, a small online business, dividend stocks, index funds, whatever you can. The job pays the bills. The asset column builds wealth. The two are not the same thing, and most people never even start the second one. Lesson 4. The power of corporations and taxes. This is where the book gets, let's call it, creative. Kiyosaki argues that the rich should use corporations to legally pay less in taxes than employees do. Employees earn, then get taxed, then spend what's left. Business owners earn, then spend on legitimate business expenses, then get taxed on what's left. There's truth here. Tax codes do favor business owners and investors over employees, but Kiyosaki implies this is some kind of secret loophole, when in reality it's just how progressive tax systems work. And most of his examples are oversimplified or specific to US tax law from the 1990s. If you take the lesson too literally, you'll get yourself in trouble with your country's tax authority. Take the principle, not the specifics. Lesson 5. Overcome obstacles with mindset. Kiyosaki dedicates a huge chunk of the book to the psychological barriers that keep people poor. Fear of losing money, cynicism, real estate is too risky, the market is too high. Laziness disguised as being too busy, bad habits, paying yourself last instead of first, arrogance, refusing to admit what you don't know. This is genuinely good content. Most people aren't broke because they don't have information. They're broke because of the stories they tell themselves about money. Now, what I disagree with, here's where I'll be more honest than most reviewers. First, Kiyosaki gives terrible specific advice while pretending it's general wisdom. He's a major proponent of taking on debt to invest in real estate, advice that worked great in the 1980s and 1990s but has wiped out countless people in 2008 and again in recent years. Leverage cuts both ways. Second, he's anti-mutual fund and anti-index fund, basically dismissing the strategy that has built more middle-class wealth than any other approach in history. Most financial experts, Warren Buffett included, would tell you the opposite. Third, the book has aged poorly in places. Some of the tax advice is outdated. Some of the real estate strategies are dangerous in today's market. And Kiyosaki himself filed for corporate bankruptcy in 2012. Which doesn't necessarily invalidate his ideas but should make you cautious about treating him as the ultimate authority. Final verdict. Should you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad? Yes, but with a critical mind. Read it for the mindset shifts, not the specific advice. The assets versus liabilities reframe alone is worth your time. The idea that the rich think differently about money is correct, but don't take the tactical recommendations as gospel. Pair this book with something more practical, like The Simple Path to Wealth by J.L. Collins or The Boglehead's Guide to Investing, to balance Kiyosaki's mindset lessons with sound technical advice. My rating, 7 out of 10. A foundational mindset book that hasn't aged perfectly. Read it once, take what's useful, leave the rest. If this saved you a few hours and you appreciate honest reviews instead of sponsored hype, subscribe to Earnings Per Page. Next week, I'm breaking down The Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham, Warren Buffett's Bible and one of the densest finance books ever written. I'll make it readable in 9 minutes. Drop a comment with which finance book you want me to cover after that. See you in the next one.